I started at Thomson Digital Solutions as a junior analyst 3 years ago, the same year my brother Derek became VP of Sales. We both joined the company around the same time, though no one knew we were related at first. I kept my maiden name, Carter, while Derek used our family name, Thompson. Different last names meant different assumptions about who we were and how we'd gotten our positions. Derek loved telling people he'd earned his VP title through hard work and brilliant sales strategies. What he didn't mention was that our Uncle James owned 35% of the company and had made some calls on Derek's behalf. Derek was good at sales, certainly, but he'd had advantages he never acknowledged. Meanwhile, I worked my way up from junior analyst to senior analyst to team lead, all while completing my MBA at night. By my second year, I'd developed 3 proprietary analytics models that increased client retention by 41%. By my third year, I was managing a team of 12 and being courted by competing firms. That's when Eleanor Michaels, the CEO and founder of Thomson Digital Solutions, called me into her office. "Jenna," she said, gesturing to a chair. "I'm retiring in 8 months." I congratulated her, assuming she was about to tell me about leadership changes that would affect my department. "I want you to replace me," Eleanor continued. I stared at her. "I'm sorry, what?" "You're 29 years old, you've revolutionized our analytics division, and you understand this company better than anyone on the executive team. I've been watching you for 2 years. You're the person who should lead Thomson Digital into the next decade. What about the current executives?" I asked carefully. "The VP of Operations, the CFO, Derek Thompson, and Sales." "They're competent managers," Eleanor interrupted. "You're a visionary. There's a difference. I'm not interested in leaving my company to someone who'll maintain the status quo. I want someone who'll push boundaries." Over the next 8 months, Eleanor mentored me privately. She taught me everything about CEO responsibilities, board relations, investor management, strategic planning, crisis leadership. We kept the succession plan confidential, known only to Eleanor, myself, and the board of directors. The board had been skeptical at first. I was young, relatively unknown outside my division, and didn't have the traditional executive pedigree. But Eleanor was persuasive and my track record spoke for itself. Eventually they agreed, with conditions. I'd be CEO with full authority, but I'd have a 6-month probationary review to ensure I could handle the role. I accepted the terms. What made the situation more complicated was Derek. He'd been campaigning for a C-suite promotion for months, angling for Chief Revenue Officer. He assumed Eleanor's retirement would create opportunities for the existing executive team to move up. He had no idea that the CEO position was already filled by his little sister. Eleanor and I decided to keep the announcement quiet until her official retirement date. I continued working in my director-level position, attending meetings, managing my team, while privately preparing to take over the entire company. Derek, meanwhile, became increasingly insufferable. It started small, dismissive comments during department meetings, casual put-downs disguised as jokes. Derek had always been competitive, but as his CRO ambitions grew, his need to elevate himself meant diminishing everyone around him. 3 months before Eleanor's retirement, we had a company-wide strategy meeting. Derek was presenting Q3 sales projections when I noticed an error in his market analysis. "Derek," I said during the Q&A portion, "your growth projections for the enterprise segment, they're based on last year's market conditions. The competitive landscape has shifted significantly. We should adjust those numbers down by at least 15%. Derek's smile was condescending. "Jenna, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but sales strategy is a bit more complex than running spreadsheets. These projections are based on actual pipeline conversations with real clients." "I understand," I replied calmly. "But the analytics data shows 3 major competitors have undercut our pricing in that segment. Unless we're planning to match their rates, those enterprise deals are less likely to close." "Stick to your cubicle," Derek said with a laugh. "Real business is for professionals who understand client relationships, not just people who analyze numbers in isolation." Several executives chuckled. Derek's ally, Marcus Hayes from Operations, nodded in agreement. "Sales is an art form, Jenna. You can't reduce it to data points." I said nothing more, just made a note in my planner. Derek's projections would come up short in Q3, and when they did, I'd remember this moment. The incidents escalated over the following weeks. At a client dinner, Derek introduced me to a potential enterprise account as My sister, who works in our analytics department. Not director of analytics, not head of our data intelligence division, just someone who works in analytics. When I tried to discuss the strategic implications of our pricing model, Derek cut me off. Let's not bore our guests with technical details. Why don't you tell them about that restaurant you like downtown instead? At a leadership training session, Derek made a point of sitting at the executive table while gesturing for me to join the director-level attendees at a separate table. When I sat at the executive table anyway because I was leading a session on predictive analytics, he raised his eyebrows and whispered something to Marcus that made them both smirk. The worst moment came at the annual company retreat 6 weeks before Eleanor's retirement. The executive team was presenting the 5-year strategic vision. Each VP took turns discussing their division's role in the company's future. Derek spoke about expanding the sales team, opening new regional offices and pursuing Fortune 500 accounts. During the open forum discussion I raised my hand. Derek, you mentioned opening offices in Phoenix and Austin. Have we analyzed the cost-benefit ratio of physical expansion versus investing in remote sales capabilities? The data suggests we could reach the same markets at 40% lower overhead with a distributed team model. Derek sighed dramatically. Jenna, this is exactly why analysts shouldn't try to make strategic decisions. You're looking at costs without understanding the prestige and client relationship benefits of regional presence. Some things can't be measured in your spreadsheets. Actually, I replied, client satisfaction surveys indicate that enterprise buyers prioritize platform capabilities and support responsiveness over regional office presence. We could allocate those expansion funds toward product development and customer success teams instead. Leave business strategy to the smart ones, Derek said, his tone sharpening. You're great with numbers, really. But understanding market dynamics, client psychology, competitive positioning, that requires experience you don't have. The executives at his table nodded. Marcus added, Derek's right. Strategic thinking is different from tactical analysis. That's why we have distinct roles. I smiled politely. I understand. Just sharing the data. Derek leaned back in his chair, satisfied. And we appreciate the data. That's your job. Our job is deciding what to do with it. Eleanor, sitting at the back of the room, caught my eye. She gave me the smallest nod. 6 more weeks, her expression said. Just 6 more weeks. Eleanor's retirement announcement came on a Monday morning via company-wide email. After 15 incredible years building Thomson Digital Solutions, I'm retiring at the end of this month. It's been the honor of my career to work with such talented people. I'm confident the company is in excellent hands moving forward. The board will announce my successor this Friday. The office erupted into speculation. Derek spent the entire day networking, making calls, positioning himself as the obvious choice. I heard him on the phone with a board member. I know we discussed the CRO position, but given Eleanor's departure, I hope you'll consider me for COO. My sales leadership has been instrumental to our growth. By Wednesday, Derek was already acting like the job was his. He scheduled a meeting with the executive team to discuss transitional leadership strategies. He sent me an invitation with a note. You should attend, good learning opportunity for future director-level advancement. I attended the meeting and said nothing, just took notes while Derek outlined his vision for Thomson Digital's future. More aggressive sales targets, expanded executive bonuses, reduced investment in R&D. We need to focus on revenue generation, not experimental projects. Marcus asked about the analytics division. Will we be restructuring under new leadership? Definitely, Derek replied. Analytics is important, but it needs to serve sales strategy, not drive it. We'll be realigning reporting structures to ensure better integration with revenue-generating divisions. He glanced at me. Jenna, I hope you're open to changes. A new CEO will want to put their stamp on every department. I'm very open to changes, I replied calmly. Friday morning arrived. The board announcement was scheduled for 10 a.m., followed by an all-hands meeting at 11 a.m. At 9:45 a.m. I was sitting in my office when Derek knocked on my door. He was wearing his most expensive suit, practically glowing with confidence. Big day, he said. You coming to the announcement? Wouldn't miss it, I replied. I wanted to say, once I'm CEO, I hope there's no weirdness between us. I know I've been hard on you sometimes, but it's only because I see potential. Under my leadership, I think you could really grow into a senior director role. That's generous of you, I said carefully. Family is important, Derek continued. I'm not going to be one of those CEOs who forgets where he came from. I'll make sure you're taken care of. I appreciate that, I replied, my expression neutral. Derek checked his watch. I should get to the conference room. Board members are probably arriving. See you at the announcement. He left and I sat alone in my office for another 5 minutes, breathing deeply and centering myself for what was about to happen. The conference room was packed. All 150 employees had crammed in, with overflow watching via video feed. The executive team sat in the front row. Derek right in the center, Marcus beside him, all of them radiating anticipation. I stood near the back, unnoticed. At exactly 10 a.m., Eleanor walked in with the board chair, Margaret Porter. Eleanor looked professional and composed, while Margaret carried a folder that presumably contained the official announcement. Thank you all for being here, Eleanor began. As you know, I'm retiring after 15 years of leading this incredible company. It's been the greatest privilege of my professional life. He paused, scanning the room. Choosing my successor was the most important decision I've ever made for Thomson Digital. I needed someone who understands not just where we are but where we need to go. Someone who combines analytical rigor with strategic vision. Someone who's proven they can innovate, lead teams, and drive measurable results. Derek was sitting up straighter, ready to stand. I'm thrilled to announce, Eleanor continued, that our new CEO is Jenna Carter. The room went silent. Derek's smile froze on his face. Jenna has been with us for 3 years, Eleanor continued, during which she's transformed our analytics division, increased client retention by 41%, and developed proprietary models that have become core competitive advantages. For the past 8 months, she's been working with me and the board to prepare for this transition. I have complete confidence in her leadership. Margaret Porter stepped forward. The board of directors unanimously supports Jenna's appointment. Effective Monday, she'll assume full CEO responsibilities with complete authority over all company operations and personnel decisions. I walked to the front of the room. The crowd parted, people staring at me with expressions ranging from shock to confusion to, in some cases, respect. Eleanor shook my hand, then pulled me into a quick hug. You're ready for this, she whispered. I took her place at the podium. Thank you, Eleanor, and thank you to the board for this incredible opportunity. I know this announcement is surprising to many of you. Over the next few weeks, I'll be meeting with every department to discuss our strategic direction and answer questions. My office will be open, and my commitment is to transparent, data-driven leadership that values every person in this company. I glanced at Derek. His face had gone from frozen to pale to red. Marcus was staring at me like I'd materialized from thin air. I'm excited about Thomson Digital's future, I continued. We have extraordinary talent, strong market positioning, and opportunities that I believe we haven't fully pursued. I'm looking forward to working with all of you to reach our potential. The applause started slowly, then built. Not everyone was enthusiastic. Several executives looked shell-shocked, but most employees seemed genuinely excited, or at least intrigued. After the announcement, Eleanor left for a retirement lunch with the board. I stayed to take questions, fielding concerns about strategic direction, team stability, and transition timelines. Derek didn't ask any questions. He sat frozen in his seat until the room emptied, then stood and walked out without looking at me. The first executive team meeting under my leadership was scheduled for Monday at 9 a.m. Derek didn't attend. At 8:45 a.m., his assistant delivered his resignation letter. It was 2 sentences. I resign from Thomson Digital Solutions effective immediately. Best wishes for the company's future. Marcus Hayes, VP of Operations, attended but spent the entire meeting looking deeply uncomfortable. When I asked about Q4 operational priorities, he gave vague, non-committal answers. By Tuesday, Marcus had also resigned. 2 other executives, both Derek's close allies, gave notice by the end of the week. I accepted all the resignations graciously and began recruiting replacements. Eleanor had warned me this might happen. Some people can't handle working for someone they underestimated, she'd said. Let them leave. You'll build a better team. The real confrontation came 2 weeks later at a family dinner. My parents had invited both Derek and me, unaware of the full situation. They knew I'd become CEO and that Derek had resigned, but they didn't understand the context. Derek arrived late, his expression tight and angry. He barely acknowledged me. Over dinner, Mom asked excitedly about my new role. CEO at 29. We're so proud, Jenna. How are you finding it? It's challenging, I replied honestly. But I'm grateful for the opportunity. Derek set down his fork with a sharp clink. Can we talk about how this actually happened? Because I'm still trying to understand how my little sister, who spent 3 years as an analyst, suddenly became CEO of a company I've been busting my ass to build. Derek, Dad started. No, I want to know, Derek continued, staring at me. Did you sleep with someone on the board? Did you blackmail Eleanor? How does a junior analyst leapfrog over executives with decades of experience? I didn't leapfrog anyone, I replied calmly. Eleanor chose me based on my performance and potential. The board agreed. Your performance? Derek laughed bitterly. You ran spreadsheets. I generated $47 million in revenue last year. I built relationships with Fortune 500 accounts. I led a team of 30 sales professionals. Made charts. I developed 3 proprietary analytics models that increased client retention by 41%. I corrected. That retention translated to $23 million in recurring revenue. I also identified cost efficiencies that saved the company $8 million annually. And I led a team of 12 analysts who consistently delivered insights that improved decision-making across every department. Everyone can claim credit for results, Derek shot back. But real leadership is about being in the arena, making tough calls, managing complex relationships. Derek, I interrupted, my voice still calm but firm. I wasn't just making charts. I was building the systems that made your sales strategies possible. Every one of your tough calls was informed by data my team provided. Every client retention success you celebrated was supported by analytics we developed. You just never noticed because you were too busy dismissing me as the analyst in the cubicle. The table went quiet. Eleanor saw what I was capable of, I continued. She spent 8 months mentoring me, preparing me for this role. The board vetted me thoroughly. This wasn't a surprise promotion. It was a carefully planned succession. You didn't know about it because no one thought to tell you. Not because of some conspiracy, but because you weren't actually in consideration for the position. Derek's face was red. I was VP of sales. And you were good at it, I acknowledged. But being good at sales doesn't automatically qualify you to be CEO. Eleanor needed someone who understood the entire business, who could think strategically about technology, operations, client services, and market positioning. She needed someone who'd proven they could innovate, not just execute existing strategies. So you're saying I'm not strategic enough? Derek's voice was rising. I'm saying we have different strengths, I replied. You're excellent at client relationships and closing deals. I'm better at systems thinking and long-term planning. Eleanor chose the skill set she believed the company needed for its next phase. Mom tried to intervene. Maybe we should change the subject. She's 29, Derek said to our parents as if I wasn't there. 29 years old with 0 executive experience, and they made her CEO. Do you know how insane that is? Do you know how that looks to the industry? Thomson Digital Solutions is now being run by someone who can't even legally rent a car in some states. I'm 29, I agreed. I'm also more qualified than most 50-year-olds who've spent their careers coasting on outdated strategies and refusing to adapt. Age isn't competence, Derek. Results are. Results. Derek stood up abruptly. Let's see your results in 6 months when the company is hemorrhaging clients because no one takes a 29-year-old CEO seriously. The board has a 6-month review scheduled, I confirmed. I'm confident in the outcomes. Derek grabbed his coat. This is bullshit. Total bullshit. I'm out. He left, the front door slamming behind him. Dad sighed. Jenna, did you have to be so blunt? He asked. I replied simply. I told him the truth. I'm not going to apologize for earning a position I was qualified for just because it hurt Derek's ego. The 6 months that followed were intense. I restructured the executive team, hiring a new VP of sales with experience in consultative selling rather than Derek's aggressive transactional approach. I promoted 3 directors to VP positions, people who'd been overlooked under the previous leadership structure. I implemented the distributed sales model I'd proposed, closing the planned Phoenix and Austin offices before they opened and investing those funds in product development instead. The decision was controversial, but within 4 months, our enhanced platform features attracted 6 new enterprise clients that Derek's old team had marked as impossible gets. I reorganized the analytics division, expanding it from 12 people to 25 and integrating data intelligence across every department. Sales, operations, customer success, and product development all began making decisions based on real-time analytics rather than gut instinct. Revenue grew 29% in Q1 under my leadership. Client retention hit 94%, the highest in company history. Employee satisfaction scores jumped 31 points, particularly among non-executive staff who appreciated the more collaborative leadership style. The board's 6-month review was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in July. I prepared extensively, detailed reports, performance metrics, strategic plans for the next 3 years. I was confident but aware that some board members had been skeptical from the start. Margaret Porter opened the meeting. "Jenna, the board has reviewed your first 6 months as CEO. We've analyzed financial performance, client satisfaction data, employee feedback, and strategic execution." I waited, keeping my expression neutral. "Your performance has exceeded expectations," Margaret continued. "Revenue growth is strong, client retention is outstanding, and you've successfully navigated leadership transitions that could have destabilized the company. The board votes unanimously to remove the probationary status and confirm you as permanent CEO with full authority." I felt the tension release from my shoulders. "Thank you. I'm honored by your continued trust." "There is one additional matter," Margaret added. "We've received several communications from Derek Thompson. He's raised concerns about your management style, questioned your qualifications, and suggested that company performance is inflated or unsustainable." "I see," I replied carefully. "We want to be clear," Margaret continued, "that the board has full confidence in your leadership. Derek's communications appear to stem from personal grievance rather than legitimate corporate concerns. However, given his vocal criticism, we want to formalize your authority to make personnel and strategic decisions without interference or second-guessing from external parties, including former employees." She slid a document across the table. "This board resolution explicitly confirms your full authority to terminate any management position, restructure any department, and execute any strategy within approved budgets without requiring individual board approval for each decision. This is standard for established CEOs, but we want to put it in writing given the unusual circumstances of your succession." I read through the resolution carefully. It was comprehensive. Full executive authority, protected from board micromanagement, insulated from external criticism. "This is more than generous," I said. "You've earned it," Margaret replied. "Now go build the company we know you're capable of leading." The board's announcement went live that afternoon via company-wide email and press release. The board of directors of Thomson Digital Solutions is pleased to announce the successful completion of CEO Jenna Carter's 6-month performance review. Ms. Carter has demonstrated exceptional leadership, driving significant growth in revenue, client satisfaction, and operational efficiency. The board has voted unanimously to remove probationary status and confirm Ms. Carter as permanent CEO with full authority over all company operations and personnel decisions. I was in a meeting with the product development team when the announcement went out. My phone started buzzing immediately. Congratulations from employees, messages from industry contacts, LinkedIn notifications piling up. One message stood out. It was from Eleanor. "Told you that you were ready. Proud of you, Jenna. Enjoy this moment, you've earned it." I smiled and tucked my phone away, refocusing on the product roadmap discussion. There was work to do. Derek reached out 3 months later. It was a text message late on a Thursday evening. "Can we talk?" I called him the next morning during my commute. "Hey," Derek said, his voice subdued. "Thanks for calling back." "Of course. What's up?" I wanted to, I don't know, apologize maybe, or at least explain. He sighed. "I've been doing a lot of thinking since I left Thomson Digital. Started working with a career coach actually. Processing some stuff." "I'm listening," I said. "I was an asshole to you," Derek admitted. "The stuff I said in meetings, the way I dismissed your ideas, that dinner with mom and dad, all of it was out of line. I was so focused on my own career trajectory that I couldn't see what was actually happening. I thought I deserved the CEO position because I wanted it, not because I'd earned it. I appreciate you saying that, I replied. I saw the Q2 numbers, Derek continued. Thomson Digital is doing incredibly well. Better than it ever did under Eleanor's final years, honestly. You were right about the distributed sales model, the analytics integration, all of it. I was wrong. We had different visions for the company, I said. That's not unusual. I'm sorry the transition was painful for you. It was my own fault, Derek said. I built my entire identity around being the successful one, the business genius, the future executive. When you got the CEO position, it shattered how I saw myself. That wasn't your problem, it was mine. We talked for another 20 minutes. Derek had taken a VP of sales position at a smaller firm, where he was learning to lead without the ego that had driven him at Thomson Digital. He was in therapy, working on his competitive tendencies and his need for external validation. Do you think we can be okay? Derek asked finally. As siblings, I mean. Not asking to come back to the company or anything. Just be family again. I'd like that, I said honestly. Good. Maybe we could do dinner sometime? Without the explosive arguments. I smiled. I think we can manage that. 2 years into my tenure as CEO, Thomson Digital Solutions had grown into something Eleanor hadn't imagined and Derek wouldn't have believed possible. Revenue had increased 67% from my first day. We'd acquired 2 smaller competitors, expanded into 3 new market verticals, and developed a platform that was being recognized as industry-leading. The distributed sales model had proven even more successful than projected. Without expensive regional offices, we'd invested in sales enablement technology and training that made every salesperson more effective. Our sales team was smaller than Derek's had been, but more productive per capita. The analytics division had become our crown jewel. We'd started licensing our proprietary models to other companies, creating an entirely new revenue stream that generated $12 million annually. I'd built an executive team that was collaborative, innovative, and aligned around a shared vision. No more ego battles, no more dismissive comments in meetings, no more leave it to the professionals gatekeeping. Most importantly, employee satisfaction was the highest it had ever been. People felt heard, valued, and empowered to contribute ideas regardless of their title or department. I was sitting in my office one evening, reviewing plans for our next board meeting when my assistant knocked. Sorry to interrupt, she said. But there's someone here to see you. Says he's your brother. Derek walked in looking nervous. Hey. I know I should have called first, but I was in the area and thought. It's fine, I said, gesturing to a chair. What brings you by? I'm actually here about a job, Derek admitted. Not for me, for one of my team members. She's exceptional and she's looking for a bigger opportunity. I immediately thought of Thomson Digital. Would you be willing to interview her? Of course, I replied. Have her send her resume to HR. I'm always looking for talent. Derek relaxed slightly. Thanks. He's really good. Reminds me of you actually. Analytical, strategic, doesn't accept conventional wisdom just because everyone else does. Sounds perfect for our culture, I said. Derek looked around my office. Eleanor's old office, now mine. The walls were covered with white boards filled with strategic planning notes. My desk had 3 monitors displaying real-time analytics dashboards. You really made this place yours, Derek observed. It's different from how Eleanor ran things. Different from how I would have run things. That was the point, I replied. Every leader brings their own approach. Your approach is working, Derek acknowledged. I saw you were named to the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. That's huge, Jenna. Seriously impressive. Thanks, I said. It's been a team effort. Derek stood up to leave, then hesitated. I'm proud of you, you know. I should have said that 2 years ago instead of being a jealous asshole. But I'm saying it now. You're an incredible CEO and you deserve this opportunity. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. I stood and hugged him. I appreciate that. And for what it's worth, you're doing great work at your company too. I've been following your progress. That enterprise deal you closed last month was brilliant. Derek smiled genuinely. Maybe we both just needed to find the right fit. Maybe we did, I agreed. 5 years after becoming CEO, I stood on a stage at the annual company retreat, addressing 400 employees, triple the size of when I'd started. Thomson Digital Solutions had gone public 6 months earlier. The IPO had valued the company at $1.2 billion, making it one of the most successful tech offerings of the year. Eleanor was in the audience, having returned to serve on our board of directors. Margaret Porter sat beside her. And in the back row, somewhat to my surprise, was Derek. He'd asked if he could attend as my guest, wanting to see what I'd built. 5 years ago, I told the crowd, I became CEO of this company under unusual circumstances. I was young, I was unexpected, and a lot of people doubted whether I was the right choice. Scattered laughter rippled through the audience. What I learned was that leadership isn't about age or traditional credentials or fitting people's expectations. It's about vision, execution, and surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you in their areas of expertise. I clicked to the next slide, showing our growth trajectory. We've tripled in size, expanded into 6 new markets, developed products that are changing our industry, and built a culture where innovation comes from every level of the organization. None of that happened because of me alone. It happened because we created an environment where the best ideas win, regardless of who suggests them. The applause was thunderous. After the presentation, Derek found me at the reception. That was incredible, he said. This whole event, this company culture, it's nothing like what I remember. You really did transform everything. It took a lot of work, I admitted, and a lot of help from people who believed in the vision. Derek looked around at the celebrating employees. I keep thinking about that meeting where I told you to stick to your cubicle. God, I was such an idiot. You were protecting your ego, I replied. We all do it sometimes. The difference is you grew past it. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Eleanor had chosen me instead? Derek asked. If I'd gotten the CEO job I thought I deserved? I considered the question. Honestly, you probably would have been a perfectly competent CEO. You would have hit your numbers, managed the business efficiently, kept things stable. But I don't think you would have transformed anything. And transformation is what Eleanor knew this company needed. Derek nodded slowly. You're right. I was good at executing. You're good at reimagining. Those are different skills. Both valuable, I said. Just different contexts. Well, Derek raised his glass. To my little sister, the visionary CEO who proved everyone wrong. Including me. Especially me. I clinked my glass against his. To family who can admit when they're wrong and grow from it. We drank, and in that moment, I realized that the best victory wasn't proving Derek wrong or claiming the position he'd wanted. The best victory was building something meaningful while maintaining relationships with the people who mattered. Even the ones who doubted me. Eleanor had been right 5 years ago. I was ready to lead. And I'd proven it not by defeating Derek, but by becoming the leader the company actually needed. Patient, strategic, and focused on building something that would last long after any personal rivalry was forgotten.